If I can change one thing about my life right now to reduce my expenses monthly by 75%, I would pick the correct city to live in. What is the cost of living in a big city like Toronto, Canada, versus if you move to Southeast Asia like Bangkok, Saigon, or Manila? First, we have to talk about expense for rent. This is the single biggest expense that you have to incur during the month. If you guys are a minimalist and want to live in a place that is as cheap as possible, I would advise to rent a room inside a shared house. You have a common area like the living room, kitchen, and sometimes even the washroom. But the cost is very low. It's gonna run you around $600 to about $800 Canadian. So that's about 400 to 500 USD. If, however, you need a private space to do work or you value your peace of mind, then you want to rent a condo by yourself, it's going to get much more expensive. A small condo with one bedroom and a kitchen and a washroom is going to run you around 2,300 to 2,500 Canadian. And if you need parking, that's going to be another $100 to $200. However, if you're looking to invest in a property like a condo or a home, the cost is going to be exponentially higher. In another video, I discussed about how it's better now to rent than to own. That's because there's so much headache that comes with owning a property. For example, insurance. In case something happened around your home or inside, you have something to back you up. Because if you don't, it's going to cost millions of dollars in repairs. One time I had a leakage in my roof from the extinguisher, and basically the water flooded my entire apartment and sank down 5 stories below it. That's a lot of damage. In a condo that's downtown, expect to pay millions of dollars if you don't have the right insurance. The second thing you have to worry about is the mortgage payment. With interest rate being very high right now, you don't want to be paying a mortgage that can basically wipe out your entire savings for the month. Also, electrical bills, maintenance, Wi-Fi, water, heat. There's so many bills that you have to add on top of it. If you guys are in a house, then you have to cut the grass and shovel the snow in the winter. If you live in a condo, then you have to pay maintenance fee. And roughly for a small unit, it's going to be $300 to $400. And if it's a big unit, it's going to be like $700. So be careful when you move into a new condo if you are the owner, because the maintenance fee can be drastically higher than what you expect. In an old building where there's a lot of maintenance and a lot of backlog in terms of costs, your maintenance fee can be over $1,000. The second expense we're looking at is the food. If you guys are eating out sometimes like once or twice a week, and most of the time you're cooking inside, expect the bill to be around $500 to $700 Canadian per month. If you guys are eating very cheap and always cooking inside, like you're not going for organic, whole food and things like that, then perhaps it's going to be cheaper. Personally, I value very healthy, organic, and clean food. So therefore, my bill is about $150 Canadian per week on my grocery. And this is not counting the times I eat out or order Uber Eats. Each time you order a meal on Uber Eats, expect to pay around $30 to $50. Just multiply that by 30, that's $1,500 if you order once a day. So the third thing is very simple, small, but very important, which is your internet and phone bills. If you're going with a company like Bell's or Rogers, which is like a very large player in Toronto, Canada, then expect to pay maybe $40 to $50 a month on a basic phone plan with some data. But there's a smaller company called Chatter. You can pay them much less and have pretty good service as well for about $20. So I advise you to look into that. Their connection is still pretty good. For home internet, expect to pay around $50 to $80 depending on where you live and what type of internet speed that you have. One trick I would advise is call the company that you have providing your internet and phone bill and tell them that you're considering to go to a competitor. Sometimes they have promotion running throughout the year that can save you 10 to 20%. Number 4, we'll talk about transportation. Now the best thing here is try to live as close as you can to your work or your school so that you don't have to transport by car or by TTC, which is the public transportation there. Getting a bike is also recommended because it's good exercise and you don't have to find parking. Owning a car is very costly, especially in a country like Canada. I know it's a large country and most of the time you do need to drive from one place to another. Otherwise, it's very inconvenient. Because Toronto has so many different places that are spread out from Markham to Brampton to Mississauga, even to go visit a friend, usually it's going to take 20-30 minutes by driving. However, for day-to-day things like grocery, your school, or your workplace, try to have them very close to your home so that you can walk within a 5-10 minute. This is good exercise, and also it's going to save you a bunch of money. And walking is going to give you more opportunities to kind of see around the neighborhood and meet different people. If you have a car, however, you have to pay for monthly finance. That's $500 to $1,000. Then you have to pay for parking at your place where you're renting. That's another 100 or two. And then when you drive to a place, you have to look for parking. And another thing is you have to maintain the car, change the oil, and some things that go wrong with all the valve and the engine. That's a lot of money depending on what kind of car that you have. Lastly, if you park in a place that you don't know or you speed a little bit over the limit, you can get a ticket that can cost 100 or two every time. Sometimes you might have a one-off thing where you have to go on a route that need you to take the car, then just call Uber. It's quite cheap, $20, $30 for each route. It's still better than owning a car. In my personal opinion, taking the Uber in a combination with walking and the TTC is probably the best way to go. And that will cost you roughly around $200 a month. One advantage about living in Canada is that healthcare is free. Dental care is also free if you make under $91,000 Canadian per year. So you can save a lot here. However, there are certain things that you do need personal insurance for because the service might not be to the standard that you expect. So if you guys are careful about your health, or if you're a little bit older, you have some kind of conditions, then consider purchasing some kind of health insurance plan. But if you're a healthy, normal adult and you want to do a checkup maybe once a year or twice a year, then it should be okay to go with the Ontario Health Plan. You need the OHIP card, and for that, you need to be qualified. So those are the main costs you have to incur every month living in Toronto. However, there's other costs like personal care, entertainment, and maybe perhaps going out and shopping. So you guys know well how much you spend, but overall, it's going to be around $3,000 to $3,500 Canadian per month. If you're living in a home with shared common places, maybe it's going to be cheaper, around $2,000 per month. In a different video, I also discussed the cost of living in a big city like Saigon, Vietnam. If you guys haven't watched it, here's the link. Overall, the cost of living in a big city in Vietnam like Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City is going to cost you much less, around $900 to $1,000 Canadian if you're trying to save some money. And if you want to splurge a little bit, maybe $1,500, which is around over $1,000 American. So the cost of living, as you can see, is much different. Instead of $3,500, I'm paying only $1,000. So I'm saving a large amount of money, almost 75% of my living expenses, just by moving from a big city in Canada to an equally large city in Southeast Asia. This number in Vietnam is also similar to another city like Manila or Jakarta, and perhaps it's a little bit more in Bangkok. However, these cities are quite the same. And the food is great, the weather is nice, and you can save a lot of money just by the rent, the food, and transportation, because these are the three big things that's going to cover you for the month. And with the rest of the money, try to invest into something. Make your money grow. That is the best way to become rich. If you're spending 80%, 90% of everything you make every single month, you're never going to be rich. And right now is the best opportunity to kind of invest your money to start a business, because we're in that phase, where everything is online, there's AI, and everything is global. So it's very easy to start a business. If you don't know how to, then find a partner with some knowledge, or try to get popular on social media. And then you have influence to market, to put yourself online, you have a personal brand. All you have to do is now partner with a brand with a product or service already, and you can make a ton of money. So the best thing to do now is change your location. From a city like New York, somewhere in California, Toronto, Sydney, you move back to Southeast Asia or South America, you can save a lot of money.